order. On the agenda this evening, there are 2 items. Councilors present this evening, members of the Appointments Committee, myself, Councilor Kuchmarek, Councilor Green, Fleming, and Clark. Patty is absent this evening. We also have present with us our Councilors Walsh, Zarella, Squalia, Dina Talley, and Donnelly. And Councilor Boschman is here as well. First item on the agenda is for the reappointment Board of Registrars of Voters, term to expire April 1st, 2021. Ms. Ellen Hughes, I don't think Ellen is with us this evening. Councilors, this is simply a reappointment, and Ms. Hughes serves.
Second.
I have a motion and second to confirm the appointment of Ms. Ellen Hughes to the Board of Registrars of Voters for term to expire April 1st, 2021. Speaking on the motion, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? It is unanimous, motion carries. 4-0. And second, we have a new appointment for student police officer to be effective on June 4th, 2018, Mr. Ismael Sanchez. We have Chief Martineau and Mr. Sanchez with us this evening. I've asked councilors, unless you have any specific objection, Chief Martineau will be introducing our student police officer candidate to us during the full council meeting. Everyone has the agenda. I'd ask that we kind of waive the redundant introduction in lieu of a unadulterated introduction in just a few moments. I have a motion and second to accept the new appointment for student police officer to be effective June 4th, 2018 of Mr. Ismael Sanchez. Speaking on the motion, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? It is unanimous. Motion carries.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
I have a motion and second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? It's unanimous. We are adjourned. City Council meeting will begin momentarily. Good evening, everyone. Tonight is Tuesday, May 15th, 2018. I'd like to call the Fitchburg City Council to order. Please be advised that FATV is conducting audio and video recording for this meeting for public broadcast, and I would ask anyone else in the audience who is recording this meeting to please identify themselves for the record now by standing and stating their name and address. Does anyone wish to do so?
Elizabeth Dobbins, Central Enterprise.
Thank you.
My name is Carol Taylor Kaziaczek from 283 Canton Street. If I could address the city council.
You'll have an opportunity momentarily.
David Nicholas. Nicholas, 6999 Hell Farm Road.
Thank you. Counselor Di Natale, would you please lead us in the salute to the flag? To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, could you please conduct the roll call?
President Kuchmarek.
Present.
Councilor Boishman.
Here.
Councilor Clark.
Here.
Councilor Di Natale.
Here.
Councilor Donnelly. Councilor Fleming.
Here.
Councilor Green.
Here.
Councilor Caddy. Councilor Squalia.
Present.
Councilor Walsh.
Here.
Councilor Zarella.
Here.
Public forum. Anyone wishing to speak on any matter on the agenda may do so for not more than 2 minutes. If you're addressing public hearing petitions, you'll have an opportunity to speak at this time. Please approach the center table and identify yourself by name and address for the record. And please, does anyone wish to speak at this time? Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Carol Kazianko, 283 Canton Street. I'm sorry, my petition did not make it to the agenda. It was supposed to be on the agenda.
And unfortunately, I can't permit you to speak at this time. If you submitted a petition that'll appear on the next city council agenda, I'd certainly invite you to.
It was confirmed by Amy Green that it was going to be on the agenda last week, and I had 7 residents from Canton and Romano Ave come tonight.
I certainly understand, and I apologize. Unfortunately, we can only allow those items appearing on the agenda to be spoken to this evening. So I'd certainly invite you, if the item appears on the next city council agenda, I'd certainly ask and invite you to return and to provide public comment at that time. I'm sorry.
I'd like to thank Chief Martineau for taking the time to speak to these residents and offer a lot of help to us on Romano Ave and Canton Street.
Absolutely.
He helped us, I hope. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak at this time? Attorney Nicholas?
Again, David Nicholas, 6999 Hell Farm Road. My wife and I live there. We also own property right across from the library on Main Street in Fitchburg. I want to speak to the Main Street issue. I apologize I was not able to be here the last time. I was babysitting, and by the time I was relieved, it was after 8 o'clock. I did watch most of the meeting last time. I actually quit at 10 o'clock, and when I found out afterwards that the council had voted 6-5 and then 7-4 to vote to keep two-way Main Street, two lanes on Main Street going the same direction, I was shocked. And I want to just recap what happened last week and say why I believe that your votes, you should reconsider the vote that you took if you voted to keep it 2 lanes going in one direction. It was generally acknowledged by everybody that spoke that 2 lanes going in one direction provided little, if any, benefit. There was a marginal decrease in safety. There was a marginal decrease in speed, and that was it. That was the sole benefit. What was also recognized is that 2 lanes, one lane going in one direction was not going to solve the problem for Main Street. And one of the parties that said that was actually the consultants that came and spoke at Fitchburg State last year. And they advocated what was being done, but they privately acknowledged you're not going to solve the problem by having one direction Main Street. You got to have 2 direction Main Street. And that's where the whole discussion went, having 2 directions on Main Street, and that's what you really need to have. What everybody that spoke in favor of it, there were 2 city councilors. The rest of them, you either were relatively ambivalent, or 3 or 4 of you spoke strongly in favor of getting rid of the 1 lane, bicycle lane, and having studies in order to develop 2-way. The cost to Main Street and the people that are on Main Street, like myself and my wife, and the people that are in our buildings, is significant. It does not make Main Street more attractive for businesses. There is a bottleneck at least once a day, if not twice a day, when it can take as long as 3 or 4 stoplights at the upper end of Main Street to get through. doesn't help people, those wanting to come onto Main Street. It also is not safer. We were actually got free publicity on the Boston news stations last year as a result of the one-lane Main Street, but it's not the kind of publicity you wanted because it was a road rage incident that was caused by the confluence of the traffic going from 2 lanes down to 1. And it was on for about 3 separate nights saying what this road rage incident was on Main Street in Fitchburg. The other, I have myself gone out of the Fay Club, I'm looking, I've gone out of the Fay Club parking lot and almost clipped a bicyclist, not because he was going in the right direction in the bicycle lane, because he was going in the wrong direction at a fairly large clip, and I'm looking in the direction I should be looking to see if any traffic is coming. I start out and all of a sudden, boom, there's a bicycle right in front of me, and I had to slam on the brakes coming out of the Fay Club. The other detriments, the DPW, the cost and the time to put in, remove, move as needed the flower pots. That was universally recognized. The fire department said it is a safety issue for them because of the congestion on Main Street, getting from east to west. Another negative for it.
Attorney Nicholas, your 2 minutes is up.
I'll
If
be
you could
done in
conclude.
just a minute. I really will be done in just a minute.
You have
I'm not
15
repeating,
seconds.
not repeating stuff. The bike lane is rarely used, and when it was used, that same day that you had your meeting, it was used once. I agree, and it was used by somebody in their mechanized wheelchair going from west to east. That was the one person I saw use it that day.
Attorney Nicholas,
There was nobody
your
that.
time is concluded.
There
Thank
was
you
one- there
for
was
your
one
public
re-
comment.
There's only one reason not to,
Sir,
there's only
sir,
one,
your-
listen,
your
let
2
me
minutes
just
is
finish,
conclu-
and I'll
your-
be done in 30 seconds. There's only one reason.
Sir, your time is
To
concluded.
reject one-lane Main Street, and
Sir.
that is if.
Sir,
you're-
everyone is given 2 minutes, and I try to do it equitably at this point. You
that
far
is-
exceeded your time. I'd ask you to conclude your comments in one
I'm
sentence.
going to conclude them. And that is if all the grants you were talking about and all the projects you were talking about are withdrawn because you revert back to 2 lanes. If that's not the case, then you should bring it back to 2 lanes, rethink what was a mistake, and put it back to what all the people, or most of the people on Main Street want it to be. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else wish to speak at this time? Mr. Posco.
Thank you. Good job, Dave. I agree with most of his points. So I know, I only have 2 minutes. So I had a week to think about this, and, you know, I guess I've concluded also that the traffic metrics relating to speed and safety, it's really not supported. And, you know, the thing that gets me is there were never any alternatives suggested for safety reasons or speed issues relative to Main Street. I mean, they used the bike lane as a guise, but what about a road diet, which would be narrowing the lanes? You know, some towns use 10 or 9 feet. What about some of the technological advanced devices? You know, and simple ones like speed cushions and speed tables, and also the signage. And, you know, to look along Main Street, along that strip, you know, I think I see one speed limit sign. I see no slow down signs. I mean, these are very inexpensive. And the real issue, though, was the Mass DOT report that reported no less than 10 safety issues just because of this single lane. So overall, it is not safer. It's bad for business. We've had 7 businesses closing and moving since the single lane trial. The overwhelming response against it for the business people. And the other thing people fail to realize, it's not only a single lane Main Street. They took away the access from Putnam Street Bridge. So that took a lot of traffic onto Main Street, which now is gone. So Putnam should go back to two lanes as it was with the single lane, before the single lane trial. So, you know, I know there's all these studies out there. We shouldn't be relying on a 17-year-old study regarding Main Street, and basically, we need people to go down Main Street, to go downtown. There should be no other routes around Main Street. Two-way is the solution ultimately, but there's plenty of evidence right now that says put it back to the way it was before the trial and open up Putnam Street Bridge. So I would like you to consider that going forward.
Thank you, Mr. Pasco. Is there anyone else wishing to speak at this time? Good evening.
Hi, I'm Mary Gianetti, resident 40 Village Crossing, and business owner, Morin Square Diner, corner of Lunenburg, Main Street, and Myrtle Ave. And I'd like to speak in support of petition 047-18, which is to remove the do not enter sign going into Myrtle Ave and allowing for a right-hand turn. As I mentioned earlier in the public safety meeting, for 23 plus years, my husband and I have watched the traffic pattern on this corner. And as a result of that do not enter sign, we have seen some pretty creative ways that people try to get into either our business, go onto Myrtle Ave and north of Main up to the college area. If you're traveling on Summer Street and you want to get to those places that I just mentioned, we see folks come onto Main Street, they'll go into the 7-Eleven parking lot and pull a U-ey and then come in, or they'll go up, towards the college area. Alternately, they may take a right onto Lunenburg Street, they stop to make a U-turn that then backs up. You have all this traffic behind you waiting. You make that U-turn and then you cut through our parking lot to go up to Myrtle or to come to our business, which would be a good thing. But at either of those scenarios I just mentioned to you, what's happening is our parking lots are used as the thoroughfare. So the other thing that we see is we do see lots